You're listening to In the Chair, a podcast for Freemasons in England, the UK and around the world. Find out more at masonicpodcast.com. But first, welcome your host, Robert Bone.
Hello there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you're having a great day whenever and wherever you're listening to this. And of course, this is In the Chair, the Masonic podcast with Robert Bone. And so far, we're up to episode 8, which is absolutely fantastic. And really pleased to hear that loads of you are listening to it. Genuinely, when I started this, I didn't know if it was going to be me listening, doing this with just sort of like, half a dozen people in my lodge and the odd person finding it on Twitter. But this has been absolutely fantastic. Had literally thousands of downloads of this. Listeners in, I think, about 25 different countries around the world. Absolutely crazy. So many thanks to each and every one of you. Everyone who's hit the download button. Everyone who's hit the subscribe button. I hope you're enjoying it. If you have any feedback, do, of course, get in contact and let me know. So after last week's... Episode 7 was just basically an interview with me, which was myself talking about just my journey in Freemasonry, because of course I'd actually just been installed into the chair of my lodge, that's Kennet Lodge in the Province of Berkshire. So today we're back on with the interviews, but still going to be, from my point of view, quite close to home. I've got another interview with someone who is a Berkshire Mason, and for those overseas or those don't know the UK geography too well, Berkshire is a province very close to London in England, in the UK. We're part of the United Grand Lodge of England. The reason I'm doing this is I know I've had a few all over the place, but one of the things I found is Freemasonry is Freemasonry. Wherever you are, whatever province you're in, whatever Grand Lodge you're under, pretty much, and whatever workings you're doing, Freemasonry tends to be Freemasonry. It's the same principles that go on as part of it. But in particularly, I wanted to speak to someone from Berkshire Province because there'd been some great news. We have something called the Berkshire Masonic Charities. I'm sure each province has their own sort of charitable fund. The Grand Master, Martin Peters, had actually set up a commitment, a little drive over a 5-year period, set a target. And I won't go through too much because I've got an interview about this. But that target was beaten, and not just beaten, it's actually been done within time. So I wanted to talk to someone about this. So I spoke to Robert Faulkner. Robert Faulkner is one of the trustees of the Berkshire Masonic Charities. And in this interview, we talk a little bit about how that money's raised, what it's actually used for, and and the sort of projects and how people can apply. And actually, I found it really interesting. I always assumed, and this is one of the things why I wanted to talk to someone about this. What tends to happen, I'm sure many of you relate to this, you go to a lodge meeting, you put some money in the arms collection, you buy some raffle tickets, you might make other donations, but it kind of goes into a pot, and that pot is then applied to charity. As we sort of say, it's thankfully received and faithfully applied. But we don't really know what goes on in the middle, and Robert discusses that. I thought it was really interesting about how the money's put into a fund, how it generates interest, how that capital is secure, how the capital isn't so much used, it's the interest that's driven off of it that then is used to go towards the charities. And of course, as that capital sum increases, that annual interest is going to increase, and the amount generated. So obviously I won't go through that too much, but I hope you enjoy this interview. It's a bit of a short one today, but I had a great interview with Robert Faulkner, so please enjoy. So I'd like to introduce to In the Chair, the Masonic podcast, Robert Faulkner, who is with the Berkshire Masonic Charities. So, hi Robert, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, I was first involved with the Berkshire Masonic Charity in 1990 when it was set up.
Right.
And it was set up to celebrate the separation of Buckinghamshire and Berkshire as two separate provinces.
Okay.
100 years previously.
Right. And what's your sort of position in it at the moment?
Well, I'm a trustee, and
right.
I've been a trustee since the very beginning. So I suppose really I'm the senior trustee.
Fantastic. So in a way, you're the person that they need to speak to work out where those raised funds go.
where the money goes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, there was, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the Berkshire Masonic Charities today is because our Provincial Grand Master, he set a target back in 2010, and Berkshire not only hit that target but exceeded it, and before time. Could you just explain what that was?
Well, he wanted to ensure that when we'd finished one major festival, before we started another one, we had a sort of breather in between. And in that few years, which are 5 years, he wanted to get some more core capital for the Berkshire Masonic Charity. So he launched his appeal for £500,000 in 5 years. Right. But we got it in 4.
And that was, absolutely fantastic. And I believe the way that he found out about it comes quite a surprise to him as well, wasn't it? The upper week.
Well, when 4 of us were holding £10,000 each in cash, went up to his pedestal and gave him the actual £40,000 in cash on his desk in front of him.
Crikey, yeah.
And as he said, he was gobsmacked.
Yes, I think, unfortunately, I wasn't there that evening. Actually, that was the night before my installation. So obviously, I was at home frantically going through the little blue book that evening. Yeah. But and I think what's happened is not only was there the target of 500,000, as you say. I think currently the official figure is about 525,000, isn't it? And there's more still coming in.
On the night of Provincial Grand Lodge, we actually reached 525,000 instead of 500,000, and in fact, it's still going up. And it's now exceeded 526,000.
Fantastic. I know, actually, we, by coincidence, were at a lodge meeting the other day, and there was still, donations being made.
Still money coming in.
And there's still, and there's still more installations. So I'm sure that figure is going to be going up. And the great thing is, of course, this money's coming in, but now there's actually a great sort of funds. And as we say, that sort of brings us on to your job. Is that the money's come in, and of course you're involved in whereabouts it goes. So
all the money that's coming in from the appeal and everything that we've had up until now is all invested.
Right.
We use 2 brokers.
Okay.
And we invest all the money so that we have an income of around 50,000 pounds a year.
Right.
And then we as the management committee of the Berkshire Masonic Charity, we meet every quarter to consider applications from all sorts of people and organisations,
right,
to give the money away. And we only spend the income.
Oh, okay. So that's still going to be the capital there.
The core capital, which is now in excess of 2.5 million, is invested, and the income, as I say, about 50,000 a year. We spend that income on various charities and good causes around Berkshire.
So that's a great way. So that actually keeps it going, self-perpetuating, and of course that means the amount is going to actually increase over time as that capital sum increases.
Indeed.
That's I must admit I never realised that's what happened. I mean, it's very easy as a lodge member, and I'm sure many listeners agree with this. They go to their lodge meetings or visiting, they buy their raffle tickets, they make their donations, and they know that it gets put into a fund somewhere. But it's sort of, and they know it gets put to good use. But of course, it's they don't always see that bit in the middle from it. Sort of obviously that £5 not coming out their wallet through to where it actually ends up. There's obviously a whole infrastructure going on that you're involved with. Yeah. And it's actually it's a great idea that it's being the interest being generated funds it. So what sort of projects and sort of donations have been made recently? Because you said it's a whole variety.
It's a tremendous variety. I mean, we support scout groups.
Right.
For instance, scouts, the guides, the brownies. People who want new tents or new equipment for camps and so on. We support those. We support people who want to put a new roof on the scout hut or a new roof on the church or a new roof on the mosque or something. Anybody can come to us with an application. We always support projects. Right. We don't just give money into charities for the general pot.
Right. Okay.
We always try to support some particular project. For instance, quite recently, over the last few years, when the EU have insisted on various safety regulations in church halls,
right,
and kitchens and things, small groups of people have found it very difficult to raise the money to modernise their kitchens.
Sure,
in the Scout hut or the village hall or something.
Yes,
and so we've put money towards those sort of improvements.
Yes, because those sort of things, like, with Scouts, I mean, it's obviously, the parents who are sending their children there, it doesn't cost them that much each, week to send their children to Scouts. No. And of course, it's a bit unfair to get them to, to pay for the things. And often those families, don't always have the spare money to be contributing towards those sort of things. So it obviously goes into the community. And I think what's great from how you're saying that is not only how the money's being raised is being invested, but then what you're putting it towards is also an investment as well. As you say, there's sort of like projects where something's going to, there's that something where it's going to stand the test of time, I guess. It's not just a one-off sort of donation, which once they've got it, then it will be been and gone, and then we need something again next year. It's those sort of things that stand out in the community. Well,
we a couple of years ago, the Sea Scouts needed a new safety boat on the Thames at Wargrave and Henley.
Yes.
And we produced quite a lot of money towards it, and so did the Grand Charity, centrally, the Central Masonic Charity. And in the end, the Sea Scouts were very pleased to call the boat the Freemason.
Yes, it was. I remember it was actually on the front.
Remember it in the link.
It was on the front cover of the link, which for those people, they're called the Berkshire Freemason, wasn't it? And just for people that don't know, the link is a magazine that comes around quarterly for members of Berkshire Province. Yes,
and we had a young small football group.
Right.
A few parents who wanted to have an under-12s football team. And they didn't have the money to buy the kit, so they came to us and they said, could we help supply it? And we bought all the gear, all the kit for the under-12s football team.
Right.
And on the back of their shirts, it had Freemasonry in the community.
Great, because I think one of the important things with that as well is, obviously Masonry is one of the main, fundamental pillars of Freemasonry is the charity side of things. Yeah. And often Freemasonry does, with its almost secretive nature, often people don't realise the things that Masons actually do. But I think it is fantastic that by having the names on the back of the football strips on the, by having the boats called the Berkshire Freemasonry, the Berkshire Freemason, people are going to go out, and when they're looking at it, they're going to realise that and go, hang on a minute. So the Masons have actually donated the money for this. It helps raise the people. Helps raise the profile of Masonry in the communities.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it's great that these, quite a lot of these are projects that for children, for to help people to hopefully become better people in the end.
Yes, and not just only children. We do support. I expect you've seen around town. There's a bus that's got Keep Mobile on it.
Right.
There's a Wokingham branch of it, I think, and there's also an early branch of Keep Mobile. It says.
Okay.
Well, we when they needed a new bus, we gave them donations towards that.
Right.
Towards the elderly.
So and that's the one that helps elderly out and about, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's.
And we buy wheelchairs for people.
Okay. And these aren't just things with a Masonic connection, because I know there's no official connection between Scouting and Masonry, but there is. If you look through the history of both, there's definitely similarities. And in fact, Berkshire does actually have Be Prepared Lodge, which is a lodge for for people involved in Scouting, and and ex-Scouts.
Somebody doesn't have to be a Freemason in order to ask for support.
Right.
We've assisted with a child who was recommended to us, who had difficulty in walking, and so we helped towards the purchase of a specialist wheelchair, so that they could get about, and that had no connection with Freemasonry at all.
Sure, and I think that's the great thing with charity, is it is really helping to improve people's lives. And as you say, it's sort of, you consider things where it's those sort of projects, those sort of things, which is it's going to make an improvement, whether it's just a new roof on a scout hut or giving something, someone. I mean, that wheelchair is going to be, I guess, it's probably an expensive piece of kit is one way to look at it. Probably, the family probably couldn't stretch to it financially, but the resulting, freedom that's going to give the person is going to be invaluable to them, isn't it?
Yeah. And not always does the national health or whatever, they don't always supply everything that's required.
Right.
And so very often families are left to buy a lot of support equipment themselves, and that's where we can help out.
Great. I mean, well, I've got to say, Robert, thanks very much for coming on in the chair and talk about this. I'm hoping not only has it inspired. I know lots of our listeners, of course, are in Berkshire. They and know where they know the great things that are being done, but I'm hoping it's helped illustrate it a bit more. But also, hopefully, it's inspired Masons just around the UK, whether they're part of the United Grand Lodge of England or indeed around the world, or just people that have come across this podcast to find out a bit more about Freemasonry, to find out actually a little bit of the real nuts and bolts of what we actually do. It's one thing to say, Freemasonry, we're a charitable organisation. It is fantastic to actually hear, I guess, straight from, if you pardon the phrase, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of, it's one thing we say, that the money's always thankfully received and, faithfully applied and those sort of things, but this really does illustrate it. So, many thanks for that. I'm sure because, of course, this festival is going to be, this is carrying on until September 2016, isn't it, for the Berkshire Masonic Charities? So it will be interesting, actually.
I think
it will continue, obviously, yes.
Yeah, I think the appeal is not going to be extended.
Right.
The PGM is not increasing the target.
Right.
Now that he's got the target, I think it's down to lodges now to do whatever they want to with their charity funds.
Which I mean, to be honest, especially in the financial climate that we're in and sort of coming out of, to have set something which was probably some people thought was probably quite audacious back in 2011 when he proposed this target. Yeah. To actually kind of say, well, actually, we not only did we do it, we smashed it in 4 years and still got a year left over. I mean, not only is that meaning that now the Berkshire Masonic Charities have got a nice boost to the funds, which is not just going to be generating, and as you say, because it's being invested, it's not just going to increase how much has gone into it now, it's increasing it year on year on year. Obviously, as that's going to be generating more interest over the years as well. So, that's absolutely fantastic. And not only that, as you say, it means that lodges will probably have a bit more in reserve that they can actually do what they want to do with as well with it. Yeah. With their funds. So, fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic news. And, I've got to say, obviously well done to, all the brethren in Berkshire Province for digging deep and, raising the funds. And I'm sure many people are very thankful for it as well. But on behalf of myself and, of course, all the listeners to In the Chair, the Masonic podcast, Robert, many thanks for taking some time out to speak with me today. Okay. And hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.
And I'll see you around ere long.
No doubt, Robert. Okay, thanks very much. My thanks once again to Robert Faulkner, one of the trustees of the Berkshire Masonic Charities. Thank you very much, and I hope you got something out of it, and hopefully it helps you, even if you're not in Berkshire, just to kind of see how, and even if you're not a Mason, just really to see how those funds are taken and how it's applied and how that gets back into the community. And as I see it, it's really a win-win situation for everyone. Although the links are going to be in the show notes, if you want to find out a bit more about the about Berkshire Province, find out the websites, links onto the charity side of things. But that's it's berkspgl.org.uk. That is berkspgl.org.uk, and that goes onto the Berkshire Provincial website. Of course, all the links are in the show notes, and of course the show notes are on masonicpodcast.com/8. That's the number 8. That'll redirect you through to the show notes page, and that has all the listings on there. And just to summarise the conversation that I had with Robert, so hopefully you found that useful, and I think it's an ingenious idea about how that capital was preserved and how that capital then generates the that interest income, and how that that is what is applied and given to the charities. And you can see as over the years how that is going to build and generate even more, and how that goes out into the community, and also how those applications don't need to have a Masonic connection. In fact, I kind of got the impression from Robert, you kind of want these projects that maybe don't have the Masonic connection, so people out and can actually see. Not only does it raise the Freemasonry in the community, I mean, it might bring new members, but it also lets people see that we are actually a charitable organisation, and we are making these charitable donations that aren't actually connected with Freemasonry. So hopefully, that's why I say it's a win-win situation for everyone. Just to sort of come back to about the Masonic podcast, I've had a bit of a busy time of it. It's been 2 weeks now since I went into the chair of Kennet Lodge. I've been out doing a lot of visiting, as you can probably imagine. Lots of how should we say, provincial commitments as well. Going around, going to other installations and showing my face. I know, and thank you very much for all the people that have sent me emails, sent me tweets, got in contact in various methods and means to let me know when their lodge meetings are, invite me to go along, and I really do appreciate that. What I'm doing is I'm having to collate my diary into a big Excel spreadsheet because, of course, I want to try to visit places, but I do have those provincial commitments. I've obviously got my own lodge meetings, a lodge of instructions, rehearsals to go to, as well as all my personal and professional things as well. So I'm trying to put all of this together. So if I haven't got back to you, if you don't think I'm ignoring you, I'm just trying to work out if I can actually come along and visit. It's been absolutely manic, and I've been just pretty much surprised at just how many people have been offering for me to come along and visit. So I genuinely do appreciate that. So I'm going to pretty much wrap this up for today. So thanks very much once again for listening. Hope you're enjoying it. As I mentioned earlier, if you have any comments or suggestions, please drop me an email to robert@masonicpodcast.com or @masonicpodcast on Twitter. Obviously, go on to the show notes as masonicpodcast.com/8. I hope you've had a great week. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks once again to Robert for the interview, and I will catch up with you again next week.
Thank you for listening to In the Chair. Visit masonicpodcast.com to see the show notes and in-the-chair.co.uk for more resources to help you get the most out of your Masonic journey. If you enjoyed the show, please let us know by rating and reviewing it on iTunes. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss our next podcast. If you're not already, follow us on Twitter @Masonic Podcast.